So one way that roleplay is presented to us is that we're to imagine ourselves in that situation of our character and ask ourselves the question, what would we do if we were in that situation? People will get angry watching movies when the characters act dumb. You know, they think, well, if it was me, things would have been different, right? So I guess this way of thinking is not unintuitive. So the third time that I ever sat down to play a role-playing game, I was in the seat of the GM, and the players I was playing with had never played an RPG before. In my wisdom, I thought that it would be a good idea to make the characters that the players were going to play in some superficial way like the players, as a way to sort of ease them into this sort of new experience. So the characters I made them were kind of like them, and we set it in the town that we lived in. And although I think that this may have helped in one regard, I also feel that it was hugely detrimental in another, and that the symptoms of doing it this way around are obvious and everywhere. So let's break down why I think this is a bad idea, and what we should be doing or how we should be thinking about it instead. So, hi, my name's Matt. Welcome to the Tomb of Lime. If you've ever spent any time on the internet, or just with humans... Oh, hello, Beagle. Beagle. What was I saying? Right. So if you've ever spent any time on the internet or with humans generally, you will probably have come across the phenomena where people take their beliefs about something and they incorporate it in some way into their sense of self, their identity as a person. So as a result, when someone criticizes that person's beliefs, they take it as a personal attack on themselves. And apart from just being offended or getting defensive, okay, what they'll do to preserve their beliefs, because they're trying to preserve a piece of themselves, is that they'll have to abandon logic and reason and rationality and do mental gymnastics in order to get out of giving up a piece of themselves, like a core part of themselves. In short, their beliefs get tied up in what we might colloquially call the ego. So when a role player is given, or they create a character that is their avatar, a thing that they can self-insert into, then the outcomes of that character's actions become tied up with their ego. When a character's success becomes linked to the player's sense of self-worth, they will do anything that they can to see that character succeed, including the role-play equivalent of mental gymnastics, rules lawyering, and metagaming. It's one thing to try and succeed in the game because it makes sense that is what your character would do, but it's another thing entirely to succeed at the game because it gives you an ego boost in winning a conflict, a make-believe conflict that the GM could stack the deck in either way at any time if they wanted to, right? You can see this in acting as well. Like when an actor's ego gets caught up in the character they're playing, you get stuff like, I think in Blade, they had to CGI Wesley Snipes' eyes opening because he didn't want to do it, or pretty much any movie that Steven Seagal was in, right? If every actor in every movie only ever played themselves and refused to let their character fail in any way, it would not be good for movies. Likewise, what's best for a character in a role-playing game is not technical success, against logic and reason and what makes sense. What is best for that character is what makes the most sense for that character. Sometimes character failure is player success, because it's what's right for the character. But this can only work if your ego is not tied to the in-game success of the character. There is another reason that self-insertion is not good for roleplay, and it's actually because of you. You're smart. You are. You're trying your best. You think ahead to the future. You try and plan and make incremental progress over time. You might, by saving money or starting healthy habits. You might even have responsibilities, a family or pets or work or a place you live in, you take care of or something. You know what else you do? You don't try to rock the boat. You don't try to cause just unnecessary conflict with people for no reason. And you hold on to your beliefs slightly lightly because you know that new evidence could come along and you might have to change your mind. That's all great, okay? And we're all very proud of you and you should keep it up, absolutely. But as good as a person as these things make you, they make for a very boring character. Now, you have every right to be fond of yourself, okay, but that does not mean that it's a good idea that every fictional character should be like you, especially not one that you want to be interesting or compelling, or to have an interesting time or a compelling time. Let's face it, if you were in a medieval fantasy setting, you would probably be a servant or a peasant farmer, maybe a craftsman of some kind. You might live in a hut or a house, a wonky house with the family, and have a goat, right? I'm sorry. You just would. When you decide to play a game where you're an adventurer, you're adopting certain, assumptions about that character. If you're a guy that wanders the land doing violence for money, it is because you are not a consistent, responsible worker, okay? You do not fit in well with society. You do not get on well with people. And one of the reasons is probably because you have these really core convictions that you're not willing to budge on and that people don't agree with. For many of us, it may have been a shock to discover that Dungeons & Dragons, this game that famously sparked satanic panic, was so preoccupied with religion for a long time. It's been a core assumption of the game world that your character worships some god or other, and that they, with that comes a set of beliefs or convictions that your character follows. Ironclad ideas that can help, dictate your behavior. Now, regardless of how you feel about religion in real life, this sort of thing is solid gold for a roleplay character, because it gives you convictions that will cause conflicts under which roleplay will thrive. People whose ego is tied into their character might want to bring modern secularist ideas into this fantasy world where the gods literally come down and smite people on occasion. It's it's nonsense. It's horrible. It's horrible. So infecting your character with this very commendable penchant for getting on well with people and thinking ahead and being responsible, right? It's awful for a interesting game, not just a game where you're like a Mary Sue, where you just go from success to success, right? It's not what's best for your character as a character. It's not best for the GM. It's not best for the other players. It's certainly not best for the game generally. The only thing it's really good for is stroking your ego. Ultimately, it's selfish. That's what it is. I think it's self-serving. If your character's not just your self-insert, they're not tied to your ego, then you won't feel compelled to saddle them with your baggage. All right, so what is the relationship that we're supposed to have to our character? What are we doing here? Instead of asking yourself, what would I do if I was in that situation, saddling them with the mantle of you should be asking yourself, what would the experience be of being like them for me? To put on the mantle of your character and feel what they're experiencing through all their terrible choices and the consequences thereof. I mean, let's play a game where you can be anyone you could imagine. Oh, well, okay, I'll think I might just be me again. It doesn't make sense. Or it does. It does. I can see that people who are, convinced that who they are in real life deserves a certain amount of success, and they're not getting it. So they turn to the imaginary to experience the success for who they are, right? I understand that could feel good, but what I don't think it is good role play. I think it would be better for the people that you play with to leave your ego out of it. I don't think that your little self-therapy here should be at their expense. Once you realize that you can win the game by being a good role player, measured in consistency of character, not some sort of arbitrary in-game success. Similar to an actor that can play a villain or a tormented protagonist or whatever, then you'll be able to have fun with it, not only in a way that is not at the expense of the game, but actually enriches it. So because you're the one role-playing your character, there's always going to be some of you inserted in there, right? Of course. But there is a massive difference in the motivations of someone who is just there to be on some power fantasy ego trip and someone who is there to have an experience, an in-character experience. So I have a feeling that all of you probably have had some experiences with people who have been writing these sort of ego characters and the problems that causes. And hey, look, maybe some of you have no problems self-inserting and then still enjoying this suffering and failure that comes with that. All right. But I definitely find that this shift in perspective from self-insert to desiring an experience has made role-playing much more satisfying and, dare I say, enjoyable. Now, if your GM shared this video with you, it's not because they think you're an annoying ego trip player. It's because obviously they want for you that same sort of rewarding experience that can come with this kind of role play. So feel free to thank whoever sent you in the comments. But also, look, if you've had a significantly different experience, I guess let me know what you find is the most rewarding way to have, a role play experience. That's it for me for today. I know I haven't posted in a while. I can't promise it won't happen again. I know YouTube doesn't like it when you're inconsistent, but oh well. Either way, if you stuck around, thank you. My name's Matt. This was the Tomb of Lima. Thank you very much for listening.